You're listening to the Holistic Spaces podcast brought to you by Mindful Design Feng Shui School. Episode 133, Feng Shui Kids with Tori McBrien. Welcome to episode 133 of the Holistic Spaces podcast, where we hope to inspire, educate, and empower you to create your own holistic spaces that nurture and resonate with you. Angie Cho and Laura Morris are the founders of the Mindful Design Feng Shui School. Together, they have over 3 decades of experience designing harmonious spaces for their clients in their successful design businesses. Through articles, books, workshops, videos, TV appearances, and consultations, Laura and Angie have guided thousands of people to shift their energy and revitalize their living spaces. Mindful Design School offers feng shui courses and certifications. Check us out at mindfuldesignschool.com.
Hey, wait, do we have an announcement to make? Do we have anything we should chat about? The fact that enrollment is opening, right? Yeah. So we are going to keep your eyes peeled. If you're not already on our mailing list, get on our mailing list because our new class is starting the end of September and we're going to be doing some info sessions around that. So keep your eyes peeled. We're also going to be doing some other free stuff, which we're putting together and working on now. So make sure that if you go to Mindful Design, if you go to mindfuldesignschool.com and you go to the homepage at the bottom, there is a place to sign up for our newsletter because you don't want to miss. It's like a special thing that we're working on.
Oh, yeah.
And
Well, we could just tell
yeah,
them. So one, we always have an info session or two before we launch every certifications for people who have any questions about taking our feng shui certification. And by the way, today we have a guest who's a graduate. And another thing that we're doing, we always mix it up every semester. Laura and I are
mhm.
always, seeing what fun things we want to do. And this time we thought we would do a free webinar. But have we titled it yet?
Yeah, I think it's going to be, okay, don't quote me on the title, but I think it's, we're basically going to show people how to set their bedrooms up with feng shui. Like
Yeah.
it's going to be a walkthrough, right? It's going to be not too long. It's going to be live, and we're going to talk about the elements and stuff like that. So it'll be really fun, really like really practical and actionable.
Yeah. Laura's the marketing uh
I'm the slide maker.
she's the slide maker and the marketing person in our relationship. However, so she has a great name in the works. And
Yes,
so yeah, you guys all have to sign
yeah,
up for our mailing list in order to find out about
and it'll be
the
free. It's
free
free.
webinar
So
that we're
yeah,
going to do about how to just like a feng shui bedroom workshop.
yeah, basically, yeah. Okay, so without further ado, welcome to Tori. Hello, Tori. Tori McBrien is here. She is one of our grads, and I'm gonna read your little bio. But hi, Tori. Welcome. Tori combines over 10 years of experience in interior design industry with her passion for feng shui and green design. Tori's designs recognize that a home can be a place to heal and that her clients want beautiful functional spaces that are supportive and nurturing. Tori practices and uses black duck feng shui as a way to merge both ancient wisdom with modern design principles. By combining her design skills and intuition with ancient feng shui methods, she curates functional, beautiful, authentic spaces that support her clients in a deeper and more meaningful way. She currently lives in Connecticut with her husband and 2 small children. So welcome, Tori.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So, and we're talking today about families and kids and feng shui because it well, some of you probably are not in the mind. You're going to have to get in the mindset in the next couple of weeks for those that have kids and are thinking of back to school. And we thought it was good timing. And it's something that Tori, she also did her presentation when she was in the program about this. And it was really great to see how she used feng shui with her own family. And we just thought it would be a really good way for our listeners to see how they could use it too. So Tori, why don't you talk a little bit about, your own experience, what you did, how you worked with your family with feng shui?
Absolutely. I chose this for my presentation because during COVID, that's what we were. We were in our house. It was my husband and me, my 2 kids, And during that time, Feng Shui really became, for me, a way of creating an environment that was supportive for me during COVID, which was difficult for everybody, right? And then I took it one step further and thought, well, how do I use this to sort of nurture my kids as well? And so I really dove into their rooms, which is where they kind of go for refuge and timeouts, if I'm honest. And so I wanted a place where they felt comfortable and that would be sort of their haven when we're all stressed out and somebody's tired of me teaching, or I need my own space. I can send them to their rooms and they have a comfortable place to be. So that's really sort of how this came to be. And there are a couple things that I looked at when I started, but first is sort of some of the obvious things like the command position for their beds or desks. And then
hold on, just to interrupt.
Yeah.
For those of you that are listening, you've obviously probably heard us talk about this before, but I believe if you listen like 2 or maybe 3 or 4 episodes from now, there's one about setting up your bedroom, and then there's definitely talks about command. Yes. Which
is really important. I mean, I think it's also something that applies throughout the home, which you guys have talked about before, and is a pretty important aspect of Feng Shui. But one of the other things I did is I look into their 9-star key, which is their astrology, and use that in sort of their personality traits, and how do I build their bedrooms so that, and design their bedrooms so that it's supportive for their specific personalities.
And just to come back to the 9 stars. So the 9 stars, we do have a podcast because we do a 9-star key review at the beginning of each year, usually around January. And 9-star key is well, some people call it Feng Shui astrology, but essentially you're looking at the elemental energies of people. And some people align it with Western astrology in terms of your sun, moon, and rising stars, but in Feng Shui you have 3 different stars. So so you have, tell me, because I know this, but what for your family, what came out when you did the 9 stars? Like, what was your revelation? What did you come up with?
We are all very yang earth. So young earth, we are stubborn.
Right.
We need to retreat into our caves when we get stressed out, which is why their bedrooms are such an important refuge for them. Yeah. Both my kids are that way. I'm that way all the time. If you look at all 3 numbers, and my husband is like that when he's stressed. So that was sort of a very eye-opening for me. And how do I not only support them, but myself as well, looking at that information.
Yeah, because it's a lot of big earth energy and big earth chi. And in Feng Shui and in the 9 stars, the symbol behind it that comes from the I Ching is the mountain. So you basically have a whole lot of mountains in your house, which don't want to move, don't want to compromise sometimes. Very strong though, right? Really strong, lots of deep energy and strong energy and lots of reserves, but some stoicism there, some stubbornness. But so when you, knowing this, did you, like, when you were doing your kids' bedrooms, or when you're like looking at your kids, did you bring that into how you designed and set it up?
A little bit. I felt like there's so much earth energy in us that I kind of used some of the other elements around them. So I brought in a lot of fire energy for them, and not in a big way, because I also felt like a lot of fire for little kids I didn't want it to be too energizing, to be honest. But I wanted them to feel, to have a little bit of that in their room. So I added artwork with red in it. I added some LED lights in my daughter's room in the shapes of stars, glow in the dark stars on my son's ceiling, just to bring in a little bit of that fire energy. And
yeah.
I love that you were saying, I would love that you were saying not too energizing, because I've noticed with my clients, sometimes they're like, they don't want their kids' rooms to be too energizing, right? For instance, one project I just completed, like a renovation project, the son, who's like a teenager, was like, oh, because even the lighting is part of like the Feng Shui, right? And so, which is fire energy, but he said, oh, it's too yellow. I want like more the whiter light. And I told them, well, actually the more yellow light, the warmer tones are more soothing and keep the energy down. It produces more melatonin, whereas the white light in the higher Kelvin temperatures, the whiter the light is, the more active they are. And they're like, oh no, we're not going to change them to he wanted the white light. And I was like,
Sedative. Get me the
yeah,
lights with sedatives attached that I
no,
can push
no,
at
no.
the
He
right
wanted
time.
the light with the white light. He wanted the
He
brighter light
wanted
that
that,
makes.
but then he didn't when you told him.
Oh
Didn't he
no,
want
the
the
son.
sedative light?
Yeah, yeah. The son wanted it, and then the father was like, "No, we're gonna keep it on the yellow warm light
Yeah.
now."
Well, my son wanted me to paint all of his walls red because that's his favorite color. And that's when I put, that's not happening. So we're going to do this in a smaller way.
Yeah, yeah. With kids, you need to I usually give they're like, I want blue, and then you give them 3 blues to choose from, because
Right.
otherwise they'll pick the Crayola brightest one.
That's exactly what he
Primary
went through
blue.
my fan deck and he picked out 3 bright reds. And I said, this is not happening.
Yeah,
So-
and I think that's also a testament to kids is that a little goes a long way, because kids' energy is so raw and they're so fresh and new and they're like little sponges that little smaller amounts of any adjustment with, especially with feng shui, is all that you need, really.
And they're constantly changing too, right? I mean, my kids are 6 and 4, so every day they're maturing in a different way, or they're backtracking a little bit. So it's constantly. I didn't want to throw a bunch of stuff in there. It's been and I'm still making changes now, just to kind of tweak things when I see certain behaviors or something else coming out. So
Yeah,
it's definitely a
kids
process.
are kids are always changing, and then they're redoing their room, kind of little kid, big kid, all the different kind of stages through. Um, and you mentioned the adding of the fire, which some people might be like, as we were saying, fire's a lot, but fire has this, it's inspiring, and it makes you happy, and it's warm, and it's generous, and it's kind, and it has all, yes, it can make you active, but also it can really be, I always think it brings a lot of clarity, it brings things to light, and it's inspirational. So I think, and kids, obviously kids do like it. A lot of kids' favorite color is red, so there's a real connection there. So I like that you recognize that and brought it in. I mean, as opposed to, with earth, you could be really deliberate and say, oh, I'll just bring in some wood to break up all that earth, which I'm sure you did. But the fact that you picked, I like it. I like that you looked at the situation and you decided to bring in a little bit of that fire, which is really cool and different. I like that.
I like along the same lines. I think of fire too as sort of the soft glowing embers, right? That's very soothing and sort of warm feeling. And so it's like you said, it's not always this bright, fiery chi that's going around. It can be very soft and comfortable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the yin fire.
The yin
yeah.
fire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the nice glowing candle. So, and you're working with client, do you find that you attract clients that are looking for what you're already doing? Like when you're doing it, do you find that people want, the same thing, families or, couples with young kids, and do you kind of attract that? Do you find? Because I find that that's what happens to me. Not that it did, but now I get different
Yeah, more and more, because I understand the functions that they need in their home on the design side. I just finished working with a client, and she has a young, I guess he's now 1, but I was kind of talking her along. Oh, these are the things you're going to need these are the things we need to think about, because I'm a few stages ahead of you. And so I do think I'm sort of attracting those kinds of clients because I have that experience personally and professionally. So.
Yeah. And it comes through, and even though, well, I mean, it's just energy, right? It comes across. What I was thinking we could do for our listeners, and because it's back to school or it will be in a few weeks, we would talk about a few tips that I like to, bringing it back to family, bringing it to kids. Maybe we could each share a tip, and we could talk about things that people could start thinking about in their own homes using feng shui. Tori, do you have, apart from what you've been talking about, which is fantastic, what's one thing that you like to do with your family or with your kids to sort of bring that in, that feng shui energy, and using the tools that you have?
I'm going to stick to fire chi, and something that I've heard you guys talk about, and Angie specifically mentions, is I think it's the professor who passed this down, but you can make the fire chi come alive and sort of bring in this bright energy with singing and dancing and sort of creating this lively atmosphere. And we do a lot of dance parties in our house, particularly in the kitchen. So I've got the kids home from school or camp, and we turn on some music, usually something from their playlist, and just dance around and have fun. And that just de-stresses everyone after the day. And I find that to be very helpful.
Yeah. And it lifts the chi. I mean, it's like an instant chi booster, right?
Right. You can't be upset when you're dancing around and singing shout or whatever. So.
Yeah. That's good. I like it. It's simple. And it is really at the heart of what Feng Shui is, which is shifting the energy. So that's a good one. I like that. One thing, so you brought up kitchen because that's where you dance, and you dance in your kitchen, right? Because where does the family always come together? Where are we always sitting around? We're always standing around the counter, or we're in the kitchen. Everything ends up in the kitchen. So the kitchen is the heart of the home. It really is the where everything happens, especially when you have a family, or even when you have friends over. Everyone ends up in the kitchen. And the kitchen has like a couple of different dominant energies if we go back to the 5 elements. So it would be water, because there's sinks and dishwashers, etc., and fire because of your stove. And so I always like to, and sometimes those things can be close to each other. We don't know. Let's not get into that right now. But what we can do is add in one other particular element, which will create a mini creative cycle in your kitchen, which is the wood element. So you can bring in the wood element, which is a plant. I just like to bring in potted herbs somewhere in the kitchen, or you could just use the color green. And so you create this, from the fire in the sink to the water in the sink to the herbs to the stove, creates this small, like a 3 element cycle, and it completes it, and it creates this nice kind of creativity, which I love, because for me, the stove and the kitchen and everything is really where, it's an important part of the home. It's an important part for the family.
It's funny. I just realized after listening to you talk about that is where most of the plants in my house are. Just naturally, that's where they grow the best, is in the kitchen. So
there you go.
I have all these moments having studied Feng Shui now. Oh, obviously that's where my plants grow in the kitchen, because it completes things.
Yeah,
a lot of those
I'm
now.
lucky. Yeah, all my plants are luckily all happen to grow in the lee position of my house, which is the fire, which is feeding the fire. So that's worked out really well for my house too. So it's working out. We're aligning our plants with the energy of the home. And just for the kitchen, one other thing too is, talking about nurturing your family, is making sure that the stove is in command and taking care of your stove. And because you're feeding your family, you're nurturing your family, and I really think that spending some time to prepare, clean the stove, especially while we get ready for this busy school season, maybe before kids go off to school, give your stove a ceremonial clean and open up the energies of the home. It also represents the wealth of the home, but it's where you nurture and feed your family. So I like to always come back to the stove too, because yes, it has the fire energy, but it's also for nurturing and feeding your family. Angie, do you have something you'd like to share?
Yeah, so I don't have kids, but I have dogs. But my take on it would be more about the family aspect. And so there's actually an area of the Feng Shui Bagua map, which, if you guys, the listeners, if you're familiar with it, it's this 3x3 grid that you can overlay over your home. And there's lots of different areas. And one of them is actually related to family. It's usually a green color. And in Chinese, we call it Zhen position. And it also connects to new beginnings, to spring, the number 3, so many different aspects, and yang wood, actually. And so the main thing it's known for is that it's related to family. And it's a great area to work with if you want to have more harmony or support for your family. And actually, there's another area too. The opposite area is children, which is sometimes called completion, and that's a white area. So they're there's another area of the Bagua map related to children that could be relevant to kids, right? So those two areas are great, but family is a really easy one to work with. If you can locate that area of your home that can be activated with some intention to do whatever you need to support your children and to support your whole family, not just because it's not just about the kids, right? Like mom needs support, well, mom and mom, or mom and dad, or dad and dad, or mom and dad and dad and mom, whatever. So you know, the parents need support, the children need support, and grandparents need support. So it's working with all of those different aspects of family. And you can do something really simple actually that I love, and I had it up in my home, is when you look at the Chinese zodiac, it's you know, so everyone's familiar with the Chinese zodiac. There's 12 different animals, right? Well, not everyone's familiar, but hopefully you're familiar if you're listening. Like, I'm a dragon. Tori, what are you? I forgot.
I'm a pig.
You're a pig, okay. And then Laura's a rat. And so, you know, you kind of know what you are, but you can also look at the zodiac as different personality types, or types of archetypes of people. And when you have all the 12 zodiac animals together, it represents harmony between all of them, especially if they're strung together on a red string, or if they're maybe, you know, there's fun little things you can buy with all of them, like maybe on a dish, on a tray together. And there's so many different representations, like artwork with all of the 12 zodiac animals. And you can look at that as a symbol of harmony with all the different types of personalities in your home, and placing that in the family area of your home with intention to create more harmony can create a lot of support for everyone.
Yeah, it's a good way, and that is an adjustment. That's a 12 animal adjustment, which you can, as Angie said, there's so many different personalities out in the world, and even in your own family, and especially if you have a lot of extended family coming over and it's really a way to bring you, and you keep it in the correct order. Usually if you've got a representation that you've purchased, usually they're in the correct order. It helps that flow, and everything just kind of harmonizes, because it's where all the animals are supposed to be together. So good one, Angie. So Tori, I want to give you a chance to talk a little bit about, what are you working on right now? What are you excited about? How can people find you? That kind of stuff.
I am working on combining this Feng Shui stuff that I love so much, I guess, with design and incorporating that together with, and sort of attracting those clients that are interested in this. So I'm excited to dive further into it. I just actually did a workshop with a friend, and we catered it towards women and really focused on self-care, which was well received. And hopefully I'll be doing another one in the fall, because while we're talking about kids today, it's also about ourselves. And that's really how I started in this journey. You know, I needed support, and this is a way to combine my love of design and sort of my love for Asian philosophies and that my background there too. So yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Tori McBrien, or check out my website for more of my design portfolio. It's www.mcbrieninteriors.com. And I think I have all my information on your...
Yeah, and on our website you can find her too, in the consultants page. You know, and she's been doing these great Instagram lives, IG lives almost every day. I think you've been up there for a while. It was great. So hopefully you'll keep doing those. Yeah. So definitely follow her on Instagram, and she has a great website. She's, you know, Tori is not new to the design business. So, you know, you'll see her full portfolio up. And so it's going to be really exciting and great to see. I can already see how she's integrating the Feng Shui. So Thank you so much for being here, Tori. And any information you want to find Tori, you can find it again in the show notes and in any of the details of this podcast. So thanks for coming, Tori.
Thank you
It was
again for
fun.
having me. This
Yeah,
is
thanks for being
great.
here.
Thank you. And thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Holistic Spaces podcast. You can tune in every Monday for a new podcast episode. And if you like our podcast and this episode, please share it with others. You can subscribe and leave a nice review if you like it. If you don't like it, don't say anything at all. And if you'd like to explore the world of holistic spaces and feng shui on an even deeper level, please visit our website, online store, and blog for more information about feng shui and holistic living. That's at holisticspaces.com. And you can also support the podcast by checking out our certification and mini courses. We have almost every month a practical feng shui course, and that's where you get to be in a small class setting with Laura and myself, and we look at your floor plan. So you can find out more information about that at mindfuldesignschool.com. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next week.